Welcome to the Connected Campus podcast, where we explore the ways that diverse professionals are working every day to optimize their efforts to recruit, retain, and graduate their students.
So pleased to be joined this week with another very interesting higher ed IT leader, somebody who will, explore different aspects of their background throughout our conversation today. So just really eager to get into this conversation. It's been just an amazing sort of series of episodes that we do. I feel like I say this every time with every episode, just because it's been really great and great conversations that we've been having. So excited, always excited for each of the conversations, and this one is no different. But we'll start as we always do. Phil, if you want to introduce yourself, give kind of a brief professional background, and then we'll start digging in with certain things that you've done and other, perspectives on the trend lines that you're seeing.
Appreciate it, Dustin. Thanks for having me. My name is Komarny. I'm currently the Chief Innovation Officer at Maryville University, a really forward-thinking university in St. Louis, Missouri. My career has been in and outside of education. I was, if I rewind my real career, like real jobs, not just like paperboy and things like that. But my first real job in education was at Chatham University in Pittsburgh, where I worked with the CIO there who wanted to take admissions applications online in 2009-ish, 10-ish. It was like, holy, new. They were charging for them at that point. Like you had to charge to do an online admissions application. So really, I was running an online business at that time, but really got infatuated with the problems in education and problems that they're having with the digital space. So learned a lot in that relationship and worked there for a while. Then I moved over to Seton Hill University. It was a school that was the first school to do iPads for everybody back in 2010. So we made a big investment with Apple and said, all these students are going to be inspired by this device. And everybody thought we were doing it as like I was P.T. Barnum. The iPad emerges and we're going to go do something with it. What people didn't know, for a year before that, we worked with the faculty to understand how mobile could be used at the podium. And we were using iPhones. But when the iPad came out, it was just a form factor change. And we really interacted with the faculty to get them to adopt that. So seeing mobile as a catalyst for change in education is what we were really doing at Seton Hill, and it still persists to that day. They're still using that technology and has changed our teaching and learning environment. But my career has spanned both internal education and externally. From there, I moved to be the CEO of a digital transformation firm called Robots and Pencils. They were a Canadian firm. Robots are engineers, pencils are artists. It takes each of them to make one unit of innovation happen was the thesis statement. I was very motivated by that and decided to run their U.S. operation or start their U.S. operation up. And we did. I ran it for about 3 years. And one of our customers was the University of Texas. And they were into this idea around Institute of Transformational Learning. We were working with them around the software lens. Their CTO left, and Chancellor McRaven, Bill McRaven, the guy who did the Make Your Bed YouTube commencement speech, motivated me basically to go and do that work formally at UT. So stepped into that role of digital transformation officer at UT, the UT system, and found very quickly, as I think Admiral McRaven did, that some of those systems are set up for change never to happen inside of them. So we learned a lot about politics and about why these systems are set up and how they're not meant to be broken. So that's what I learned from that engagement. And moved to Salesforce. I moved to Salesforce from there as the vice president of innovation. Worked with some of their greatest customers around seeing how a CRM could be leveraged inside of any vertical. Education was one of the ones I was very interested in. I did a lot of work on blockchains and verifiable credentials when I was at Salesforce, and got to go and talk to a lot of schools about what's coming next. And Maryville asked me to come out 2 years ago to do that talk, and I did, to their board and to their president's council. And the president's like, "We want to do that." I gave him an idea, and he's like, I'm like, "Great, here's 5 people who can run it for you." He's like, "We want you to run it." I'm like, "Well, this is like the best job I've ever had in my life, and I really respect the company I work for, but I am so motivated by somebody like a president of a university saying the word revolution." And I think that's what we're up to now at Maryville, is really putting in the right foundation and the right way to have that organization change. So it's not about tech, it's about people and how tech applies to people. So that's what we're up to now. That's a little bit of my background. I'm sorry I went a little bit long there, Dustin. Apologize for that.
No, I mean, no apologies needed, because I think, it's such a awesome and incredible journey and story. And just, why I think someone like yourself, just like getting your perspective on things when you've kind of come in and out of working at institutions or a entire system of higher education and all these different things, like there's obviously so much that uh goes into, like you're saying, like a revolution happening, like a very, committed, you know leader that has sort of the willpower to see things through, bringing in the right people and utilizing the right tools and everything. But I guess for you personally, what I wanted to sort of, I feel like I was starting to kind of get glimpses of it as you're explaining things,
Mhm.
but like with all the variety of roles that you've had, in and out of higher ed, like what has been your guiding philosophy of maybe like, as you're going from one job to the next, what you were trying to accomplish or learn or anything like that? But like, how did you sort of like navigate your way through those? Because I guess it maybe some of it was sort of like just doing the work and sort of, building your network or sort of that sort of thing led to, one thing leading to the next thing and all that. But like, how do you view sort of like your guiding philosophy as you went through all these different kind of roles?
Wow, that's a great question. My guiding philosophy is pretty simple. Who dares wins. It's the SAS's motto, but who dares wins means a lot to me around change, and inspiring people with that type of those words really it's worked for me. But I mean, if I look at like how my career is not by design at all. So there was no design in this whatsoever. I've really followed my passion, and really I think education is my passion because I didn't get an education. I didn't get to go to college. I grew up as an Army brat on military bases and learned very quickly that if it's a privilege to go to college, and it was something I didn't think I was going to be able to do. And looking back now and looking what this digital world affords us for teaching and learning, there's nobody should be in that position where they think they can't partake in education. That's something has been always been inspired me around the work that I'm doing. That if we can expand that, because talent is distributed, opportunity isn't. That's Paul LeBlanc's quote from Southern New Hampshire. It's brilliant. But I think our digital world doesn't have to be modeled after our analog world. That is, especially in higher education, super privileged moment for a lot of people to be able to have these experiences. But our digital world can do it a lot differently. And I think that whole "who dares wins" is something Maryville respected and is stepping up to. Is saying, yeah, we're gonna be bold, and we're gonna put something in place that we think can really do great things for our company and our business and our students. And what does that look like for the future of learning? So, "who dares wins" has always driven me, but really, how can I affect change? And really, I'm passionate about the education space because of where how I've been brought up and what I've been able to attain in my career. It's all around relationships and learning. I've again no college education, but I have a really big network of people that I've worked with in a way that I didn't want anything from those relationships other than to learn. And I've now created a network of amazing people that work with me daily that I'm so blessed to have that. I don't have a college degree, but I do have a network of people that really respect what I've done, and I really respect what they've done. And I think moving that forward is really what learning's going to look like in the future when we can uh, think about how we build these systems differently.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's been swirling around in like a lot of podcasts that I listen to or different things, is like that
Mhm.
college is such a great enabler of that like social capital, like you're saying, where like somebody who wouldn't really be able to easily do it on their own can
Right.
get plugged into like a fraternity, sorority, or,
Mhm.
just even the whole kind of alumni network or
Yeah.
anything like that. But um, yeah, so that's a really good point. I think even if people listen to every episode, a recent episode
Yeah.
of this podcast, I mentioned certain institutions that sort of like repeatedly sort of come up as like, being sort of forward thinking or doing really good work and, that sort of thing. And Maryville being one of those where it's just like, man, I feel like I see that name come up a lot where I'm like at a conference, somebody's presenting or just sort of like
Mhm.
that sort of stuff. So that idea that like organizationally, they are very willing to dare and, kind of
Yeah.
try to do work where maybe even like sometimes like stuff doesn't always work out, but you're even just sort of so plugged in, you're sort of like continually refining and not even letting any sort of like disruptions or impediments or hurdles or friction, whatever you want to call it, sort of like
Mhm.
get in the way of getting where you want to go, I guess. Like it's so yeah, I've always kind of admired Maryville for that. And I think, that it's an institution that really I feel like has like wholeheartedly embraced and uh embrace digital education, online programs and all that, because like what you're saying, that like there's part of it where certain people are just like, oh, college isn't for me, I'm not even going to like try pursuing it. And I think at this point, and it's in sort of I guess a flux, but like we're in this place where I think so many people feel like, well, yeah, college, it's a way to get a good job and all that. So like they're earnestly interested, but so many institutions don't have the accessibility of like even just having online programs or like
Yep.
anything like that. So like, yeah, all that to say, you're at Maryville now. They do great work, especially in digital education. I know that's how I kind of got tuned
Yeah.
into them originally.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious, like how you've seen like digital transformation impacting your campus, because I feel like it fits in such an interesting place where you already sort of, I
Yeah.
feel like, kind of wholeheartedly embraced, a digital student experience. So like, what have been
I
some
did.
sort of recent
Well,
dispatches from your
wow.
campus?
That's a great question. So I started there about almost 2 years ago, about 18 months ago. And it wasn't like, okay, we're going to install this new tech stack. That's how it usually works. Get great ideas in, great team, great way to move it forward. But instead of doing that, we stopped a year, 18 months ago at President's Council meeting or a President's Retreat meeting, and we decided that we do not need IT anymore, period. Do not need it. It's a control to the business that has driven this industry into a spot that very difficult to innovate out of, very difficult to open up new revenue streams, very difficult to act like a regular business. Okay, working at Salesforce, I got a chance to work with multiple industries and seeing how they interact with customers. I'm going to call a student customer for a minute, and I hope it doesn't scare people off, but it is what it is. In Maryville, and we did this a year and a half ago, we decided IT is a control. We would do better with a collective. So how can we use data to bind us, to break our silos of our departments, and use data to really bind us together through a new understanding of how we run the business through that data? So we did that, and we reorganized around that. So instead of IT, we have DLX, Digital Learner Experience, and it consists of 4 different groups. Design and development. We have Office of Strategic Information. All these groups were under IT before, but very siloed. Now we have them all thinking together about how they can solve problems together with talent, with support, with data, all in one organization. So that has changed the way we operate Maryville, the way that we deliver innovation, the way that we deliver change, the way we think about it. And like you referred to, Maryville has been in the forefront of like digital education and esports and all this digital world. The one thing they didn't have was a digital strategy. And what we did a year and a half ago was implement a digital strategy that doesn't let you just take every great piece of tech that comes at us and implement it. We have to have a data strategy at the very bottom part of our business. And when we think about data strategy, it's a student and their data that empowers them. We're living in a world of AI. Everybody listening to this that works in an educational facility that is responsible for data better think about how you're going to wrangle that to walk into this world of AI. If you don't capture your data and treat it well, you're going to be owned by all these AI companies. What we're doing is better treating our organization and reforming our tech stack to better treat our data, to be able to interact with that data in a better way. So when we work with vendors, we have an API facade you can talk through. We don't want a flat file from any vendor anymore. We're having conversations about technology that I've seen in the market that are not in education or in these very big verticals that use tech very well: finance, healthcare, retail, hospitality and tourism. When you think about how they interact with a customer, it's very, very one-to-one because of that data. Universities have done a poor job at that. And now we're starting to realize, once we reformed the organization to better use data, implementing different change in the tech stack is much easier because we have a different language to talk about how we facilitate and use data to delight our learners. So now we have a changed organization, restructured to better use information. We've created data oaths for all of our people to take so we understand how to use that information. And now we're going to inspire our students by exposing them to the information that they have. I think we're about to step into a world that people are really going to realize what their data is worth. Right now, we're all products of every solution that we log into, okay? That's how it works. with these new technologies in the world, like verifiable credentials and blockchains and all this cryptographic technology, there are ways to persist that data at the edge with the learner. That's a lifelong learning system. If you have to do it episodically like we do today, one, create an account, go to the school, create an account, go to the school, it's always going to be episodic. If we have one way to see ourselves through our information, and then I go to the next university and I share it with them, they should be able to provide me what I need next, because they don't have to know anything about me but what I share. And that's where we're starting to see these patterns emerge outside of this vertical, but we're seeing it very, very well through this vertical, getting kids to understand what AI does, what data means, and how we can empower them with it. That's what I think. That's a really great way to start to talk about AI. Not, OpenAI is here, everybody's going to cheat on their term papers. Come on. There's got to be a better way to do this. It's like going back to when the internet started. Everybody was afraid of the internet. Nobody's ever going to use a credit card on the internet. That was, I could show you articles that were written about that. AI is the same place that we are when the internet started. But AI is like electricity. It's not a product. It's going to infuse into everything. It's going to change the way we think about everything. And the way we're thinking about our organization supporting that change future is what we're proud of. That collective is going to be empowered by data and be able to drive an AI-infused organization a lot easier than a current department-led facilitation of what we see through our student information system into our organization. That's what I've witnessed on many college campuses, is the student information system makes us work this way because that's how it works. And here's a really neat little stat. Maryville's been working with Colleague, Aleutian's Colleague, for 47 years. We're one of their first customers. I have the original contract. The guy that runs the machine right now is only 40 years old. He's 7 years younger than the information system that's run in the university. That is right there is a problem. When you think about data and how these systems work, there's not one 40-year-old piece of tech in the world that's running an enterprise today other than education. And we're going to make that change very quickly. So I can't hear you.
Sorry, there's some background noise.
No.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. I think just that acknowledgement of that, even as much as you were able to do, and acknowledging that you were using a system that was so old and everything, and just that idea of reckoning with that and being imagine what we could do if we got something more modern. But and this might be the follow-up question that I was thinking of, because I think that was really incredible. I guess that sort of seismic shift that you recognized of I don't think we need IT as we traditionally know it anymore. And that's a pretty big paradigm shift in everything.
Yeah.
It might be a pretty quick answer, I guess, but just a sort of a follow-up on that. For where you were when you made that recognition, do you feel like making a change like that would have even been possible if it was any other institution? The idea that everybody's at various places in their digital transformation journey, and the fact that you're already sort of in this very kind of hybrid, and sort of embracing digital education, all these sort of things. It feels like in an alternate universe, it'd be that would just be a little too many steps ahead for maybe other institutions, but could be where a lot of them will be in several years. So I feel I guess just thoughts on sort of that moment in time when you sort of make that decision to kind of kind of blaze a new trail in the way that you're sort of managing your tech stack and everything, how that sort of change management kind of came about and everything.
Wow, that's interesting too. And again, I wasn't the person that said fire IT. It was the collective. It was the group. I thought that we could repurpose a lot of our talent into different roles, but I was only there for months. People have been together for 17 years and experiencing this stuff. So I really step back and let them lead that. But when we really think about what did it mean? Think about that. If you think about most campuses, and they're saying we're going to lose IT, it would be oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, this is going to scare us. But here, one thing people should realize: there's shadow IT on all these campuses. Okay, my admissions director is unbelievable. She could be a CIO. She selects the right tech to employ all by herself. She'll just get her credit card, swipe it, and install it because it works. What we've changed the conversation around now at the university is it's got to be API first. If they don't have an API, don't talk to them. because we really care about the data. Okay. We really care about that data and what it's going to mean for our learners. If it's going to be a data capture by another company, you're not working in Maryville. That's not how we see the future. So getting everybody to, understand that if we lose IT, there are mechanisms that we can put in place that allow us to experience data differently and allow us to respect and use it differently. That's hard work. And that's what most IT departments should be doing, is learning the business more. And really, where are the pain points? You hear about how this, we'll say, admissions runs in Target X. An application that runs on top of Salesforce. We know every problem with Target X, but the problem really is, how does the business really want to run? All we're hearing is how this piece of software is making it run. Having that deeper discussion and then starting to enable the discussion with tech, because people have great dreams about, I would love to do this with our students. Well, check this out. That's how we've been working with our groups, but not telling them what to implement, but showing them different ways to think about their comment. Or they'll say, well, I want to do X, Y, or Z. Well, here's X, Y, or Z in a different system. What capabilities would this give you? That kind of conversation has been had about 1,000 times in the last year and a half. And now we finally realize what we need, and we're about to stand up a second tech stack that's going to replace this 47-year-old one in the next 18 months. So now we have a culture at a university that's ready to facilitate the change. We have a tech stack really designed, not developed or deployed yet, but we're going to do it together. It's not going to be an IT moment where we go and drop in a system and then train people on it. That's not how this works. We're going to do this together, collectively. And I think it's going to emerge as something that's going to be, an order of magnitude different than what we currently see in market, because of nobody's doing the hard work of changing the org before you do the tech change, I think. And I think Maryville is going to experience that in the next 18 months.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be incredible to see, and I think a really good sort of like model for others to follow, sort of a case study where like I said, it just feels like what you're talking about is the final form of like a lot of conversations that we've had on the show about the idea of like, you know, colleagues on campus, like staff working very much in tandem with IT. It's not like, I don't know, like
Right.
it feeling a lot more collaborative. And it's like, once folks get to that place, and then over time, it feels like it would be that final form of like, you know, like get rid of IT. Like, and again, it might look a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
like different,
Right.
but like that sort of like kind of, inception of that idea would then sort of like permeate in how they sort of envision, like, yeah, just this sort of infusion of, the digital student experience or sort of data, kind of infrastructure and everything. Like, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel as though it's sort of like gatekeeping, or I don't know. I mean, and this is sort of like,
No, you're right.
if I feel like, if people listening feel
This
like
is,
I am like rambling, I feel like this is like blowing my mind, and I'm just sort of like, whoa,
well,
man, like this is incredible. And I think, yeah, like it's such kind of a testament again to sort of like, um, the way like institutions like Maryville, and there's other, institutions out there that are sort of continuing to sort of blaze trails, and they just are thankfully being uplifted as really good models for how you can sort of like, you know, uh, sort of create or grow like digital education programs, or
yeah,
create really
right.
great like student success environments or anything like that. And then like this one, you know in terms of just like higher ed IT and what it feels like it can kind of mature and evolve into, because like I think the structures that most people are familiar with and work within are equivalent to the like 47-year-old,
Yeah.
kind of like,
No.
like,
It's working. It's working
yeah.
for a lot of people. It's not like it's like a bad thing. It's just, it's gotten us to where we are, but I don't think it's going to get us to this next iteration of what education can be for this world, especially this country. I think we can, if we lose some of those constraints, it changes the way we can engage with people. And I think data is the biggest constraint, because what our intention is at Maryville is to offer that data to our learners. And we've set up Slack's enterprise grid, and we're very big on Slack. But the next iteration of that's going to be, this is your profile. This is you. This is you. This is you in a data form. Okay. Your skill and abilities. Once you do that for someone and you give them an intelligence to talk to that can actually uplevel them through just natural language, there's a great deployment of large language models there. We're working on with a company called Bast.ai. Her name's Beth Rudden, the new CEO of that company. She was the cognitive AI lead at IBM for about 15 years. And when I met her, I was just blown away by like what she basically taught me about, you know, what what AI is and why everybody's doing it wrong. And just hearing her thesis statement about it really started a good friendship between us. We've known each other for a couple of years now, and we're working together. But how can we get students empowered by their data and empowered by AI, being able to work together in Slack? And that's what we're going to start working on at Maryville around specific domains. So we can create ontologies or brains, bot brains, for each one of these bots and make them very domain specific. So nursing's a big program at Maryville. So why not give each one of our nurses a nursing companion that understands all the work they do, but also can start to interact with them Socratically, can ask them questions, not just give them answers. Ask them a question. What do you think about blah? Based on their response, the AI can start to gauge their understanding of a certain concept and then start to surface content to remediate it or make it better. So those things helps education scale. Everybody can have a digital assistant. Not everybody can go to freaking Yale, okay? But everybody can have these kind of experiences. And if I want to learn how to fly a helicopter, take that nurse brain out, put in a helicopter brain, have a conversation about it. I think that so inspires me. And the best part about it, I'll just tell you here on your podcast, first time I talked about it, created a backslash command. If everybody uses Slack, you know what a backslash command is. Backslash memory. So what that does, it gives agency to our learners that have a great interaction with an intelligence to say, holy crap, memory. Goes back to the beginning of that chat stream, summarizes the entire thing and writes it to their knowledge graph. So when I walk back into that conversation with that AI, it kind of remembers what we talked about before. Not everything like a robot would, but a little bit, a summary of that like a human would. So we can have some agency happening between the person, their data, and the intelligence, and giving them a way to control it or be a part of it. Nobody's a part of these systems yet. And I think that's where Maryville is going to really push on explaining to our students what data is, why it matters, and what it's doing to our world, and how can they be engaged in that. I think that's a great recipe for transformation around this data spot, but it's all about education. It's about educating people about this. Most people don't get anything while I'm talking about, Dustin. That's what's frustrating. But I know Maryville does, and I know what we're up to, but I think it's a show not tell moment. This is so complex, we need to show it. Forget telling it. It's way too complicated. But if we start to show this and get some students to really respond to, wow, I was given access to this information of my own, and look what it did to my learning. That's the conversation I want to see happen. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it won't, but I bet it will, and we'll see that in about a year. And maybe we can come back on your podcast with a student and let them talk about it, because that would be really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think just from what you're saying too, like a couple like some funny thoughts and some more just relevant ones, but just that idea of like people thinking about this wrong and drawing a parallel to like when the internet just like became available and whatever, where people were just uh just like speaking about the internet in a way when we look back as sort of silly. It's like, can I have an internet, please? Like one, can you give me a
Yeah.
slice of internet or
Right.
like give me
Right,
like
right,
people
right,
just
right.
weren't even thinking about it and what it could be because
Yeah.
like you said, like they just needed to be shown and then people were sort of like, able to kind of get around to it. And then
Mhm.
just that idea, like, yeah, AI is so early, everybody's sort of like the sky is falling, what are we gonna do? Like I don't, and trying to just kind of come to grips with it. But just like what you're sharing does it's really powerful because like what I've talked with some people about right now is this sort of moment. Like, there is that piece on, a lot of institutions made so many strides on the accessibility front with sort of building up their digital education portfolio and like all their different programs.
Sure.
So like, okay, a student can enroll much more easily now than they could have in the past, but so many students, both on ground and online, report so often of like just a lack of awareness of like the support resources and stuff. So that idea of like having this like AI companion who like even like just like checks in with you, like whether it's like testing your knowledge and having these sort of knowledge checks or just
Yeah.
kind of that stuff of like checking in. It's like we've already sort of gotten that with like chatbots, but then like it just is
That's not it.
amplifying it to sort of the nth degree.
Yeah.
And just that idea that a student could be so much better positioned to be aware of even just like, fun stuff, like what's going on campus.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
also
sure.
like all the things that the institution is offering to help make sure that that student's successful.
Yep.
And then, yeah, like even on like kind of the academic side where it's just sort of like engaging to see where it's like, oh, it seems like he might benefit from like, additional tutoring or just more content or something in this
Yeah.
area to kind of, um, you know, just get more sort of comprehension of the concept and everything. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's just that idea where like, so much of it is theoretical. It absolutely feels within grasp already with just what sort of is. So I think, yeah, once people start to tangibly see what could be because of like work like what you all are doing, and I appreciate you sort of teasing out what is on the horizon,
No
and
worries.
yeah, just
No
being
worries.
able to sort of be at a point once yeah, like a student has utilized it and benefit from it and can talk about it.
Mhm.
I think that will be sort of that like next sort of like clicking of the dial towards sort of the future,
Something.
this like this
Yeah,
sort of
right. No,
ambiguous thing
right.
where it's just sort of like, oh, we have this like really helpful companion that can be alongside us, and the idea that it would be like accessible in Slack, like that's, and this will be kind of like my last quick kind of follow up on this before we kind of
Yeah,
change subjects a little
yeah.
bit. But that idea of like, was it sort of a really intentional piece? Could be just a quick sort of like yes or no kind of like answer, like like go super in depth. But the idea that like people use Slack all the time, it's a very familiar
Mhm.
interface, it's very ubiquitous. So the idea of building upon what is with something that has so much possibility and potential versus being like, oh, we're going to create this proprietary interface or platform or
Mm.
this, that, the other.
Yeah,
Like I've talked with people recently in terms of digital transformation, that the idea like it doesn't have to feel like it's such a like dramatic change to your day to day. Like it can just be this sort of like iterative reform that builds upon and kind of honors what was, as we're kind of continuously improving towards what can be.
I agree.
So was that sort of like a really kind of intentional choice to kind of build upon something that like has a lot of familiarity for like students and stuff?
Yeah, I wanted to. Like Slack was, Slack and Discord. Discord more so than Slack because kids, get into it for gaming and things. But having that communal, place, not inside of a learning management system, discussion forums and stuff. I mean, but something where students can feel like this is ours. This is partly, they have some ownership there. Give them a way to interact with the data, not just via chat. We can do that anywhere. But how can we get them to respect it enough to give it a memory or give it a way to consent to the intelligence seeing their graph profile of like all their knowledge and abilities. That's, those are deviations to the way current systems work. You log into a system and that's it. I mean, you don't ever have to say, hey, I want Dustin to be able to see my data. Okay. We're trying to up level that conversation for our students so they realize the world they're walking into and how they can affect it. I think education as education as a vertical has a big, I think has a big, it's not about enrolling students, it's about getting people to understand how data is affecting our world and it's going to change it. And it already has. But how can we make the United States a little bit different than China and how these things are being deployed and integrated? So I don't know. Again, I think we really want to, you know, changing the world is not about tech. It's about people. And if we can get people to understand the tech, that's the only way that I've ever get transformation to ever happen. So this is really complex, but AIs are very engaging and very easy to, if you can type or you can talk, you can interact with an AI. But I go back. I always reflect on this thing that Elon Musk shared on Twitter, and it drove me crazy for weeks. The machine stops. It's a story written in the early 1900s, I think 1908, about humanity, how we invented this unbelievable thing that really helped us be human. And all of a sudden it stopped working, but nobody remembered how to fix it. So we've been reliant on this system that was very beneficial to everybody, but everybody forgot how to make it work. So I think we have to go a click lower than just saying AI is deployed. How does it work? How does that data, how's that inference being made? So some of the AI that I spoke of, BAST AI, that we have inside of our Slack will actually show lineage and provenance, will show the student how it made that inference. It'll point at the actual document and surface it. Paragraph 3, here's your answer. That kind of stuff makes it trustworthy. It's not like a black box giving me a magical answer. Those are really cool. Oracles are great. But if we want to build a relationship through trust, you have to be transparent. And this is one way we're really trying to get transparency to happen. So trust can happen with AIs, not we have to trust them. I want it to be like mutual. And I think them exposing how they make inferences is inferences is one way for it to happen. So again, we'll talk about outcome data in a year, but this is just starting now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. It's a great perspective to have on this. And hopefully just kind of food for thought for people as they're navigating all this. And yeah, I mean, just having it, like you said, take place in a platform that feels like conducive to just that sort of like, kind of like a parasocial kind of thing where it's like you're having like human interactions, but it's,
Yeah,
digital and all that. But like, yeah, all really amazing stuff. So, as we wind down, I do my research and I try to just find little kind of morsels of
yeah,
interesting stuff that's in the background for people. And for you, I saw that you have a project that does connect back to higher ed a bit. It's called
yeah,
My Life Track. It's one that focuses on human development. Just a brief little kind of blurb about that if you want to talk about how it came to be
yeah.
and just talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Another thing Maryville is invested in. So Maryville owns part of My Life Track, and so does a company called Burst IQ. So if you go to burstiq.com, you can see some of the tech that we built this out on. So a life graph is Burst IQ's patented technology. It's basically a graph model around a data around a person. So somebody's digital DNA. What I did was extend the knowledge, skills, and ability part of that graph and really start to put in some services that let universities and companies work better together. Universities get to decompose their learning content out of Canvas or out of their LMS automatically with an AI that turns it into modules, puts some skill tags on it, puts it right back into their LMS, but also keeps it in a record store, lets our AI surface whatever little piece of information that person might need in the future. So getting decomposition to happen in a university is very difficult. We have an AI that can do it now, and it engages the faculty around creating rich skill descriptions of what's inside of that content. So the faculty member can say, "Yes, that's the one," instead of writing those learning objectives and things. It makes it a lot easier. So that's one piece of it. And on the other side, for like employers and folks that we're working with workforce development, that same AI can look at job descriptions and look at resumes and put that exact same type of skill language on top of it. So we're building these Rosetta Stones based on the company's understanding of what skills are in their walls. So when I was at UT, we were talking to the Texas Workforce Commission about doing this all across the state of Texas. Great idea, but here's the problem. Everybody has their own idea what skills are. Okay. So you either have to make them adopt your language or you have to respect theirs. And there was really no ways to respect theirs, but there was 86,000 different versions of what that was. But now there are. With Burst IQ's technology, they have a graph reconciler that works in the background that says company A's skill graph and company B's skill graph evaluate this way. So we don't have to make them change. We can evaluate them against each other. So that's another great starter, or another great way for a company that has done some understanding of the skills they need in their walls to use that to motivate people to go on those journeys into different domains that they actually need to facilitate. So we've put those in the world. And last couple other things. One other thing is demonstration milestones, because learning is great. I can read books and I can answer questions, but it doesn't mean I can do anything. It means I can read books and answer questions. We've created a way that a demonstration milestone can be carved out, and that person can demonstrate that they've learned what they did inside the walls of a business, have it checked off, and that's what they get a credential for. Not for learning it, for doing it. So now I have something I can go brag about. I can go put that on LinkedIn, and that's verifiable back to my employer. So it's not me saying, hey, I'm a great communicator. It's my employer saying that and verifying that. So now we have digital reputation starting to emerge that's actually real, not this bullshit that's on LinkedIn, which isn't real. It's the website with the most lies, LinkedIn. That's where it is. So we can get to a place where people can respect their data and it becomes valuable for them to respect it. So they can get their next learning moment or the next opportunity. So that's why I talk about our analog world not model, or our digital world not modeling after our analog world. We can really go after that diverse talent in a much more equitable way than we currently do. So those pieces of what we've built with My Life Track, we're running some pilots right now. And again, I'll come back on and tell you what the outcomes of those are pretty soon. But it's really interesting to see how motivated people are by their data.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool stuff, and I think it's sort of funny with like the state of social media right now, where I feel like I've seen some people saying where like LinkedIn feels like one of the last sort of classic social media sites standing, but it is that idea where it's just like none of it's like validated. Like I can see that they're trying to like include some sort of like optional validation pieces where
They're
it's
trying
like
to. You know what's really funny,
yeah,
Dustin? I'll tell you a funny story. I was at the White House. I sat in the Roosevelt room talking about learner employment records with all the biggest companies in the world. Salesforce was one of them. And LinkedIn was there. And so were some really big universities because Ivanka's group was working with the US Chamber of Commerce to say learner employment records will take the friction out of this world and get more people into the roles that we need as Americans. Okay. Great idea. The only company that raised their hand at that table and said, we don't believe that verifiable data is important to our customers was LinkedIn. And now, every time I log in, it's like, would you like to validate that you have cloud engineering skills? No, you're not going to validate it for me. My network does. And if you want to meet them, I'll introduce you to them. It's not on LinkedIn. And I think that's the next social media network will be something where people are empowered by their own information. And it's not going to be owned by the company. It's going to be owned by people. So maybe like my life truck's got a chance to be part of that for education, but I see this same pattern emerging in multiple different domains. So we're
yeah.
getting there.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, and I think it's one of those things where like it is such a again like big sort of paradigm shift, and on that scale and in that way of like that we would interact with each other in some sort of like whatever sort of the social internet will evolve into. That like uh, it's going to take a lot of like people kind of pushing that boulder up the hill, and then it finally
That's
sort of
true.
like so it's like yeah,
Great.
you and the work that you are doing to kind of like change people's mindsets and perspectives on sort of uh especially yeah within sort of like workforce and education and all that kind of stuff I think is really fascinating. So I appreciate you just diving in and doing that
Yeah.
work. And but we will wrap up here with the question that we
Okay.
ask all of our guests. uh Take this as you will. What does a connected campus look and or feel like to you?
It's a collective. It does not have departments. Departments are background. It's a collective of people bound by data and inspired by it. And I would have not said that a year ago, but now we've done that, and I've seen the change that's happened. I've seen the conversations that have been happening. Like, you know, I think everybody can admit to this if worked at a college campus or worked in a department. It's about fighting for your fiefdom. Like, I lost a head. I need my head back. I need this back. That is all terrible thinking when you think about the university and what that collective could actually mean to that. Switching that conversation from controlling it through IT to giving everybody power through data has given us a better community to kind of educate in. And we're just starting this journey. This just started. This is a year and a half old. So we're just starting to stand up in tech to capture this cultural change that we've already had. How are we going to inspire people through this tech with AI and other things and automations? What's going to allow our people to do differently in the future? Those are the conversations that we're having. So I think that's an opportunity for everybody. It's not like shouldn't be scary. Oh my God, the world changed. That's a good thing. We need to keep constantly changing. That's the one thing that is going to happen is everything's going to change. So if we get comfortable with that, I mean, we're right now is a great time for it to change because the state in which this vertical or this industry is in, if we can meet these needs in a way that opens up this vertical or this industry to more people, I think we win big time. And that's what we're after at Maryville. So
Yeah, and that's what's kind of like exciting is in so many different ways. We're in this sort of moment of digital transformation for higher ed that like you keep alluding to, where it's just like we're just getting started. This like talk to me again in a year, and it's like
yeah,
that's what's sort of like for me as sort of like an optimistic person who is just kind of loving sort of this kind of transformation that's happening. Is that uh like we haven't even seen really like the full impact of it all yet. Like a
no,
lot of people are just going to be like sort of wowed by the new things that are happening, but like yeah, like we're planting a lot of seeds, or we're just getting started with stuff and everything. Like there's just going to be so much more of the story to tell of sort of
yeah,
where higher ed writ large is going and what that means for
yeah.
students and society and everything.
I
So
just
uh,
think it's like it took. I wanted to leave you with one thing. I think it's technologists' job to lead that discussion in a different way, not through control, but through collecting everybody's ideas into one place. And technologists should just be enabling the thinking to happen. because we should be able to explain not the technicality, but the opportunity to this technical bit gives us. And that's what I think that's how we've gotten this collective to work, is everybody's adopted an IT language, which is kind of technical, but not really. But everybody's talking through that lens now, not through their departmental lens, through control. So I think everybody gets a chance to do this now, but IT is has such a great opportunity to step in and really help the business evolve right now digitally, especially because AI and automation are here. So what's that mean for your college campus? You should be asking that every day. Everybody should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great parting words that I did, because like I hadn't really kind of thought about that in a while, that like so many people, they'll just sort of like defer, in terms of just
Hmm.
sort of like the management of their digital tools or whatever else, like,
Yeah,
but that it is like everyone's responsibility is sort of like on sort of that individual place, but then sort of, yeah, that collective idea that it's like all of us working together will then allow sort of the whole organization, the whole institution to kind of reach
thrive.
higher levels of success. But that like,
Yep.
yeah, it's a lot of great stuff to think about. And I appreciate you so much for bringing
Oh,
in
thank
your
you.
passion, your knowledge, and your experience and everything to this. And yeah, ways to connect with you and everything we talked about in the description for the episode. But thanks so much for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Connected Campus. Please leave a 5-star review for the show and share it so others can discover us. Make sure to also subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Connected Campus.